Today I'm going to show you an example of what pastoral abuse looks like and how you should deal with it. A parent called me a few weeks ago for advice on a family problem that they're having in their church. So I'm going to share with you the advice that I gave to her, and you tell me what you would have done differently if you were in my situation. Alright, so here's the situation. There are two people in the church in their 20s. Let's call them Alice and Bob. Alright, I'm a mathematics guy, so I like consecutive letters like that. Alice and Bob are both engaged to be married. Bob is the pastor's nephew. And the pastor's wife, let's call her Carla, has a problem with the relationship. She doesn't like Alice. She doesn't like the way Alice dresses, and she doesn't like the way Alice worships God. During the praise and worship, everybody would be singing and praising God, and Alice would be stiff, right? She doesn't like that. So she doesn't think Alice is good enough for Bob, and she will not approve of the relationship. They will not consent to marry them. So Alice's mom calls me and tells me this situation, and one of the problems that they're having is that Bob, the boy, is not standing up for Alice. He is trying to maintain both relationships. On one hand, he's engaged to Alice, but on the other hand, the pastor and his wife are his uncle and aunt. So he's trying to play both sides, and hoping that the situation will just resolve itself. So the parent calls me for advice, and here is the advice that I gave to her. First of all, you need to address whether the pastor's objections are valid. Pastors are there for a reason, and sometimes a pastor may object to a relationship because they see some fatal flaw in the relationship, and you should not take your pastor's objections too lightly. You should consider what they have to say. But on the other hand, pastors, especially in these new Pentecostal apostolic churches where they have the whole First Lady syndrome going on, they tend to be a little over domineering, and you have to know when they cross the line. So here is what a valid objection to a relationship would sound like. I don't like that guy because he is clearly not saved. You should not marry that girl because she sleeps around. You should not marry that guy because he clearly doesn't have the fruit of the Spirit in his life. You should not marry that girl because she's a little Jezebel walking around the church. Those are valid objections to a relationship. I don't like the way she worships in church. That is not a valid objection, because you're not saying she isn't saved. You're just saying you don't like her level of spirituality. As far as the Bible is concerned, it doesn't care about your level of spirituality. The Bible only cares that Christians should marry Christians. It doesn't say anything about levels of spirituality. Levels of spirituality is something that changes throughout your life. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes back down. That changes. What the Bible is concerned about is that Christians should marry Christians. So the issue she's having with Alice is not that Alice is not a Christian, is that Alice doesn't worship God to her liking. That is not a valid objection. That is a frivolous objection. Now, the dressing issue, how somebody dresses in church, that is a little two-edged sword. The Bible does teach us to dress modestly, but what I have found many times is when pastors' wives and older ladies in the church complain about the way the younger women dress, what they really mean is they look better than us, so we hate them. We object to them. We're going to make their life a living hell. That's usually what it means, and you have to carefully consider the different factors and make your decision. The general rule when it comes to relationships: cover up your nakedness, but don't cover up your beauty. Because if you dress the way pastors' wives and these older ladies want you to dress, you'll remain single for the rest of your life. And the other issue regarding the way somebody dresses, that is not a fatal flaw that will end a relationship. That is something that a pastor or his wife should go up to them one-on-one and talk to them. That is an issue of correction, not judgment. Now, once you establish that the objections are not valid, here's the next step. I'm speaking to the girl's parent, you have to make a decision now that regardless of the outcome of this scenario, you have to leave that church. There is no other option. Whether the relationship works out and you get married, whether you break up, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. You have to leave that church. Let me tell you why. Because your pastor has already proven to you that he is not your shepherd. 1 Peter 5:1 says, "The elders who are among you I exhort." Peter is exhorting the elders or the pastors. "Shepherd the flock of God, which is among you, serving as overseers, not by compulsion, but willingly, not for dishonest gain, but eagerly, not as being lords over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock." So Peter is telling the pastors, shepherd the flock, serve them. Don't be lord over them. Don't be a first lady. Don't be a president. Don't be their boss, domineering over their lives. Lead by example, influence, not by dictatorship. Your pastor has already proven that he is not your shepherd. You have no choice but to leave that church. But you might say, "Oh, well, I can't leave the church." You don't understand, Brother Denver. I can't leave the church because the pastor wouldn't release me. I'm sorry. Are you chained up in your pastor's basement? Should I be calling the police? There is no reason why your pastor has to release you from anything. You are not a prisoner in his basement. Leave. As long as you could get up, walk, and open the door, you could leave. You do not need to be released by a pastor. That is something that domineering pastors put in the heads of their congregants so they will never leave and they will stay there and take the abuse. And I told her, listen, you may be in bondage, but your children are not. You may stay in a church because you're in bondage to your pastor, and your children are going to see that and they're going to walk away from God because of it. Leave that church. Get up and leave. Go to a different church where you could actually have a pastor who is a shepherd to you. The next piece of advice, now you need to observe two things about Bob, the boy. Two things. One, does he stand up for you? Or does he try to play both sides? If he doesn't stand up for you, it tells you what you could expect after you get married. And two, is he willing to leave his uncle and his aunt, his highness, the president and the first lady? Is he willing to leave them for you? The Bible says, "For this reason shall a man leave father and mother and be joined to his wife," or cleave to his wife. Is he will? If you leave the church and go, is he willing to leave his uncles and aunts' church and follow you and go to your church and start a new life with you? If he's not willing to do both of those things, it cannot work. Walk away. Forget him. It is better to remain single. He must do both. He can't do one. He must stand up for you and he must be willing to leave with you if that need arises. And the boy didn't ask me for any advice, but if I were to give him any advice, it would be, "For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife." Stand up for your fiancé. Stand up for your wife-to-be. Defend her. If she's wrong, correct her. But if she's not wrong and the pastor and his wife are wrong, you have to be willing to stand up and be a man. This is your time to stand up and be counted. Alright, so what are your thoughts? Do you think I gave the right advice? Do you think I gave good advice, bad advice? Let me know in the comments. What would you have done differently? How would you have advised them differently if you were in my position? Alright, let me know in the comments. And if you're still watching, clearly you like the video, click on that like button. Let YouTube know that you like it so that they will push the video out to a greater audience. Alright, and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more content like this. I plan to put one video out every week, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, so make sure you check for that. You could search for my name or the channel name Bible Issues on YouTube, and you could check out all the other videos that you haven't seen. God bless you, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time.